And we're back. Welcome to the Sage's Nook podcast. My name's Tom. This is my brother Mitch. We're both long-time DMs, and we like to play Dungeons and Dragons. How's it going, Mitch? How you doing?
What the fuck was that?
Just trying out some new voices, baby. And as you can see, I've got the actual Sage's cloak on. And it looks really weird because I'm wearing headphones on my head.
I don't have any dwarven armor. Sorry.
Well, I'm wearing this because it's freaking cold in my basement. My basement is my basement is half of the house that I just recently bought, and it's completely unfinished, and there's only one vent for the whole thing. So anytime I'm down here, I have to bundle up or I freeze to death because Colorado's like single-digit degrees all day.
Yeah, I don't have that problem really right now. It's cold. It's cold as fuck. It's actually warm today. Compared to like the rest of the week. It was like -20 like 3 days ago. It's 40 degrees out right now.
Yeah, it's a little warmer than usual, but it's still below freezing. We're actually getting a lot of snow today. But yeah, I have like 2 hoodies, and I don't want to wear the same hoodie every time. So I was like, oh, you know what? I got a freaking cloak. You know what? I can look like the little guy below me.
There you go. The sage.
The Sage's Nook.
Yeah, we got a fucking action-packed episode for you guys this week. We're going to be talking about the sauce. The sauce. Not the juice, not the dressing, the sauce.
The sauce. It's a general term. You might have heard it used here and there. It doesn't really mean anything specific, but it's hard to describe, really. What would you describe the sauce, Mitch? How would you describe that?
When you're cooking a brisket. I don't personally cook brisket, but I have a friend who does a lot of smoking. When you're cooking some sort of barbecue, okay, what are you putting on it? Well, you do the rub, you know, you're kind of getting it ready, getting it prepared, and then at the end, you come in with the finisher, you get that good sauce. It kind of brings the whole thing together. It's the glue that sticks everything together in the end, makes it delicious, makes it enjoyable. Without the sauce, you can just have good smoked meat, but with the sauce, it gets that sweet tang. It cuts through all of that just gameplay. It cuts through all of that mechanics, and it makes it flavorful.
Yeah, it kind of like gives it an extra edge. It leaves you wanting more. You know, you've had a lot of good briskets, but when a brisket's got that sauce, you're like, ooh, you keep thinking about it after it's done. You're like, if I could just have one more bite of that beautiful, juicy, nice.
It's the sugar. It's the sugar. Yeah. It's the barbecue. It's the sauce. You can't have pasta without sauce, you know. Like we'll put a little butter, olive oil. It's good. Where's that fucking marinara, buddy? Where is it? There's flavor. There's story in that marinara. Effort, work.
So we're going to be talking about how you can get the sauce with D&D, how that would relate to playing a session of D&D. I think it's a very important conversation that needs to be had. It's kind of the distinction between a good and bad session of D&D. And when I say that, look, inevitably this conversation is going to be very subjective.
Yeah,
this conversation is going to be very subjective.
But we're right. We're right.
But we are right.
You know,
it is.
If your opinion is different, you go fuck yourself, I guess. I don't know. But we're right.
That is kind of the way to go into this conversation is like, you can think what you want, but understand that we are correct. And if you think differently than us, then you're wrong. So
exactly. We
might as well just kind of get into it. With that being said, the sauce, to kind of piggyback off what we said about our brisket analogy. If your characters and your players are leaving the session going, oh man, I want more of that.
Oh, that was so fucking good. Oh my God, give me another piece. Yes.
Exactly. One more bite, please. Just a little more D&D, please. Please.
Another session, please. That was so good.
You got the fucking sauce. If your characters and players are doing that, you got the sauce. Now, how do we get the sauce? Like I said, it's going to kind of be different for what you're looking for out of the game. Some people, there's just so many ways to come at this. There's so many tangents that we can get in with this one. It's going to be bad. But I think the first thing is, what are you looking for out of the game? What is your group looking to get out of the game? If this is a very casual thing and you're just getting together with your friends, you're drinking beers, you're not super into the story, you're just rolling dice, having fun, monster of the week type stuff, then it is inevitably going to be much easier for you to leave your players wanting more. Because when you're playing a casual game, there's a reason it's casual. No one's trying super hard, right? But I kind of want to relate it to back to the way that we play D&D because, this podcast is fucking about us. So we want to play God tier fucking D&D. So every time we're showing up, we're going balls to the wall. That's not saying we can't have fun, but that's just saying if we aren't trying to have a good game, if we aren't putting in genuine effort to make sure this thing is freaking cool, then why are we playing, man?
Exactly. Like when we show up to the game, if you're a good player or if you are on that tier of D&D where you really want to do well and you really want to have a great time, you want to get immersed, you come and you show up even if it's not a great session, even if it's, like a more standard like, oh, well, we're just running a game or just fighting monsters or whatever, not necessarily in depth. As that good player, you want the sauce. You can kind of bring the sauce a little bit yourself and you kind of show up to the table immersing. You're trying to pull other characters into it while you're playing. It all just comes from the want and need for the sauce, and it needs to be delivered. You don't want to show up to a game and the dude doesn't do any role play at all while he's running it, and then he doesn't do any in-depth thought before the game. The sauce is 3 different ingredients, okay? It's the inspiration / flavor you want for the sauce. That's one part of it. That's going to be your themes. That's going to be like you're thinking about it in the future, like, okay, well, maybe I want them to be in some sort of mountain range, and there's going to be it's your inspiration for the idea, the flavor you want it to be. The second part is the craftsmanship, making the sauce, okay? Making the sauce. You're going to be using Incarnate. You're going to be using Dwarven Forge. You're going to be setting up mood lights. You're going to be building character voices on your own in your free time before the session. You're making it all. And the third thing is the deliverance, the actual taste in the session.
The
Leaving your
execution.
character, the execution. Leaving your characters wanting more of that fucking sauce for their meat. Okay?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, their characters are meat. You're slathering that sauce across their fucking face. You want that shit to go hard. You want them to come back for more. You're running a fucking barbecue shop and they want more. They're going to give you thousands of dollars for all that brisket.
That would be pretty nice. Thousands of dollars per D&D session.
$1 billion, hire me.
Mitch is completely correct. And if you're not playing God tier D&D, or at least trying to, why are you playing D&D, man?
Exactly. Let's go through this first step, Tom. It's the crafts, the idea of the sauce, gathering the ingredients, figuring out what you want it to be. Does it want to be a mustard-based barbecue sauce? Do you want it to be a marinara? Do you want it to be, and let's compare it to D&D terms. Okay, well, this is a grimdark sauce. You want the vibe to be a grimdark campaign, or you want high fantasy, very magical, whimsical, or you want seafaring ocean pirate campaign. It's the sauce. It's the layer that coats everything of the campaign and gets the feeling for the players.
Yeah, you got to find your inspiration, and it can come from literally anywhere. Anybody that has created anything has probably been inspired in some way. Even if you haven't created anything, it's the same thing when Avatar first came out, not the anime, the James Cameron movie with the blue people left that theater in awe. Like, oh my God, the narrative is basic as hell, but just the world that people fell into, they were inspired. It's the same thing. It's that feeling you get from a movie when you're watching Pirates of the Caribbean. You're like, oh, this is so cool. Pirates! You're inspired. You take that feeling that you get when you are losing yourself in another world and you channel that into your own game. That's how you essentially want to make your players feel. You want your players to leave the session going, I want more of that. I want to fall back into this place.
Yes. When you put them on a cliffhanger, they're like, no, we want to keep going.
But finding that inspiration it is not something that you can like mathematically do. It's just something that has to come. What drives you? What do you latch onto as a DM? And you don't have to, obviously don't just blatantly copy something, but you can really heavy-handedly take inspiration from something. If you want to copy it, you can run a campaign in Tolkien's universe. You can run a campaign in Middle-earth. You can run a campaign in the Pirates of the Caribbean world. But if you want to do something homebrew and kind of, try to make it your own, you can just take elements of that. I do that all the time with my homebrew world. I take elements from Tolkien. I take elements from Pirates of the Caribbean. I just ran an entire seafaring campaign for 2 years. And I take sci-fi elements. I take elements from Critical Role and try and, morph them into my own thing for my world. It's whatever makes you excited. That is how you can really make an inspired session. If you're not excited about your session, why are you doing it?
Yes, those are the ingredients. Those are the ingredients of your sauce. You're pulling inspiration from other sources that excite you as the dungeon master. If you don't necessarily care about what's going on in the session and you're not excited about it, that and you don't have the inspiration and the want to do those things creatively, then your sauce is going to taste like shit. It's going to taste like shit, or it's going to be bland. It's just going to be bland. No one's going to care. It's like, oh, that sauce is fine. I'll put it on the side and I'll maybe dip a couple pieces in it. You
And
know?
it's contagious too. Like if you're not excited about the session you're running, you're gonna have to really fake it to make your character to make your players excited, because that is it's a contagious thing. If everyone joins the session, you can tell that the DM just going through the motions. It kind of makes you wonder, like, why am I here? They don't care about this. Why should I?
Exactly.
Or the worst part is if you really do care about it and your DM's going through the motions. It's just kind of one of those things. You have to be excited because that's going to trickle down to your players, you know?
Yeah, so that's like the first part of the sauce. It's the ingredients, the inspiration, your idea. I'm sure Tolkien, when he was thinking of the Mines of Moria, he probably started with, oh, I really want to have some location with, dwarves, but they're not there anymore. They're long dead. It's changing the vibe as you're going. He's thinking about this all in advance. Well, what if there's a big monster down there and then the players can maybe run into it and it'll be scary? There's goblins everywhere. There's dead dwarves everywhere. It's all flavor and ingredients from passion. He's like, I want this session to feel like this, vibe like this. I want it to be scary. I want it to be a dangerous and treacherous location. They know, the characters in the game know it's going to be scary if they go there. We probably shouldn't go there. They are forced to because of Sauron on the mountaintop. And
they're forced to because of Frodo. This little bitch ass. I want to go through the mines.
Yeah, well, guess what? He's fucking walking through the snow barefoot. Bro can't have shoes that fit him. I'd do the same thing. I'd rather take a fucking Balrog to the face than frozen feet.
I think the funniest thing is that Sauron and Gandalf, they're having their little mental exchange, and he's like, what's in the mines, the dwarves.
He's taunting him
too greedily, too deep. And Gandalf's like, yeah, we're probably gonna fucking die if we go into the mines. And Frodo's like, I want to go into the mines. And Gandalf's like, all right, says nothing.
Party leader.
But anyway,
Frodo's the party leader. But yeah, so there's it's heavy. I mean, we've harped on this a lot, like theme, flavor, inspiration. In like plenty of episodes, we talked about that. But like, that's the basis of the sauce of D&D. You have to have the inspiration. If you're a dungeon master and you're running a game, you want to be passionate about it. The building blocks of your sauce have to be good. You're not gonna make a sauce with ingredients that you don't give a fuck about. Because why are you doing that?
Yeah. I think this is a good way to kind of work our way through the sauce, especially so we don't get on any tangents. That whole Mines of Moria arc in Lord of the Rings, if we look at that as a D&D session, that's a session with fucking sauce. That is a session with unprecedented amounts of sauce. It has amazing roleplay. It has amazing killer quotes. It has extremely intense, gripping combat. It has skill check puzzles. And it even caps off with a fucking character death, technically, within that scene. That's got everything. That has every single thing you want out of a D&D session. Maybe not a character death, but like an intense conclusion, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like, I just showed one of my best friends, or one of our best friends, Noah. I just showed him Lord of the Rings for the first time a couple weeks ago, because it's our favorite trilogy of all time. And he's just not a super fantasy, he's not super into fantasy. He loves playing D&D. We play D&D together all the time. When he was done watching the movie, I was like, all right, obviously I'm biased. I love this more than anything in the world. But what did you think? And he's like, oh yeah, I thought it was good. He doesn't have the nostalgia factor because he didn't grow up watching it. He's like, I thought it was good. And I was like, all right, what was your favorite part? And he's like, the part where they were in the dwarven mine. That was the best part of the whole movie.
It's the
and you're
dungeon.
Like, it's like that's the thing that he remembers. Because that whole arc, the whole movie, quite frankly, but in that whole arc has just sauce off the charts. So like, let's recap the inspiration section. It's phase 1. We got 3 phases. Let's cap off phase 1. Inspiration understanding what you want the theme to be, understanding what you want the arc to be, understanding, what is the driving factor for why.
And the ingredients. And the ingredients you're pulling.
Yeah.
That's the location. That's the music. That's the monsters. You're gathering all of your ingredients to be like, okay, well, I have a Balrog. I have all these goblins. I have a cave troll I'm going to put somewhere in here. I'm gathering all the ingredients. Let's figure this out.
Yeah. So phase 1 is the what. You get all your ingredients. What's making this? What's making this D&D session? Now, phase 2 is the how. How you putting this all together? What are you doing? If you're online, how are you going to incorporate this into your your virtual tabletop? What music are you going to choose? If you're playing in person, are you going to be using terrain? How are you going to build all this out? Also, how are you going to break this up? What are the segments going to be? Where is this going to, peak and go into a valley? What is this journey going to look like from a session standpoint or from a campaign arc standpoint? Doesn't have to all be in one session.
It's very similar to like those hot sauces where you get different levels of flavor and heat as it goes. When you're making it and like when you're constructing it with all your ingredients, you're like, okay, I really want the end to be hot and spicy, a little mellow in the middle. Maybe it torches your tongue right away when it hits it. It's the same thing. Like, okay, I want it so that when they enter the mine, it's going to be hot and spicy. There's a giant squid monster in the lake. It's going to attack them right off the bat, charge them into the mine. They think, oh, we're safe. Okay, great. Then they get in there, and then they're like, oh, we're in a fucking tomb. This just got a whole lot worse. It's mellow. It's not drastic, but it's dread. Everyone's
dead in here.
Yes. Like when you're a DM and you're thinking this through, you want to think like, oh, what's cool and everything, but you also want to think about the player's perspective. Like you have to think about how you want it to affect the players, how you want it to feel. Yeah. It's like the music and this da-na-na-na, and they all charge in, and then the thing collapses, it dies. At least we presume it dies. And then they're like, oh, we're safe. And then they realize they're in a tomb with tons of dead dwarves. And they're like, oh, fuck, this is way worse than we thought. It gets somber, it gets mellow. It's like, okay, we got to sneak through these mines. As a DM, you're thinking, I want them to be a little scared as they're traversing in here.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, it's kind of tying back to what we talked about a tiny bit last week. Also, if you didn't watch last week's episode, fuck you. What are you doing here? Go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Got to say it every episode. There's a narrative, baby. But anyways, it's kind of like tying back to what we talked about last week, your own headcanon. When you're thinking, oh yeah, okay, so I got this idea, the Mines of Moria, all the dwarves, they're supposed to be alive, but they get in there and they're all dead. Cool. That's your headcanon. How are you going to convey that to the players? Because they don't know that. They don't know that. This is a big realization for them. So how are you going to feed that to them? In the case of Moria, like Mitch said, they evade the Watcher of the Water. It caves in the entrance, so now they're stuck in here. But they're like, okay, you know what? Oh, take a deep breath. They look down. Oh, everyone's dead. And it's intense for a second, and then it gets quiet. But the realization moment, the music picks up again. Gimli's fucking screaming and crying. It's another reveal. It's a big reveal.
Mm-hmm. And also, it's about catering the sauce to your players as well. The thought and the prep is going into when you put it into action. If Gimli's not in that party with them, that whole sauce of that dungeon does not work nearly as well. Because this is Gimli's basically like his homeland. I don't know where Gimli's from. Bad fan. But I know that his cousins live here. He's been here before. He's expecting his dwarven brothers to meet him at the gate. That's a player character's backstory coming into effect. And when he gets there and all of his friends are fucking dead, that's the sauce. That's the flavor. It punches that player in the mouth. You're like, oh my God, everyone's fucking gone. Like, this is way worse. If Gimli's not there, the sauce doesn't hit at all. Everyone's like, oh, fuck, everyone's dead. Okay, let's get through here. This is scary.
Yeah.
But Gimli,
yeah,
he's
exactly.
He's probably like a god tier player at the table. He's like, oh, he starts freaking out. He's like, my friends are all dead. Where is everybody? What happened? And then he gets vengeful. And throughout the rest of the session, he's fucking pissed. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill all these goblins. That's what dwarf get in Moria's bread. Exactly. It's motivation. That's a player at the table who's been inspired by your fucking sauce. He's like, holy shit, I gotta avenge my fucking brothers. Fuck this troll. Fuck these goblins. We're killing them.
Yeah. when you start feeling things in here, in your chest,
Yeah.
you know the DM's cooking up some sauce, and you're probably contributing to that sauce too. And that's the thing. This is kind of a little side note. It's not all up to the DM to bring sauce to the fucking barbecue. You know, you got to bring your own sauce, baby.
Yeah.
You're part of this. You're part of this trip.
You're bringing the sides that the sauce is going on. You're bringing the food to the table as well. Oh, we brought beers, or oh, I brought potato salad, or
you got to bring the potato salad.
Yeah, exactly. You're bringing that extra flavor that then the sauce goes on, and it just flushes out the whole meal. Everyone's at the table. Oh my god, this is so good.
Yeah.
So that's the sauce in action. That's a little bit of a tangent from the middle part, but like that's a perfect example of your intent of how you're crafting it goes into it. His intent, intent of that hypothetical dungeon master making the Mines of Moria is to make Gimli feel. It's to make Gimli be like, oh fuck, this is like a turning point of my character. I'm fucking pissed. We gotta fucking get through these mines. Like this is more than just a guarding journey now. It's like this is personal.
So we handled the why, the inspiration. Now the preparation of just like, making those peaks and valleys of the session. You have the fight with the Watcher of the Water, and then the dramatic realization that the dwarves are dead. But then it's kind of chill. It's kind of chill for a little bit, and they're just wandering through. You got some good exposition, some good backstory from Gandalf.
The role play sections.
Mithril. It wasn't in gold, the worth of Moria, but in Mithril.
Yes.
It's that whole thing. You
lore
can
bombs.
still make lore bombs, exactly. And then you have your nice short rest. Oh, I'm lost. I have no memory of this place. Yeah. They all fucking camp out for a little bit.
Side tangent. Gandalf, that's a fucking crazy scene. I wish I was that fucking smart or wise. Bro has to literally go into his brain to remember the directions in a mine he hasn't been in 100 fucking years. He's like scanning the library in his mind for fucking information.
That's fucking checking the backlogs.
That's crazy. It's the role play section for the characters. They have some downtime. They just went through like a very stressful boss fight where like basically the VIP Frodo is under direct threat. The whole party's like, oh, they all run out. They're trying to save him. It's a fucking psycho fucking situation. They save him. They run in. They realize, oh fuck. This is like we're all like there's goblins in here or something. Like we're fucked. There's dead dwarves everywhere. We're not getting the welcoming we thought. And then it's kind of like, okay, now as a DM, I want to give the players some rest, some downtime. They need to chill out after that. Yeah,
and they can talk and role play, mingle amongst each other. You have a lot of good exposition from Gandalf. You have a lot of good, as Mitch said, lore bombs, but you also have a lot of good inner party connection. Gandalf and Frodo share an insane, a super wholesome moment where Gandalf's just dropping banger quotes one after the other. For they're talking about Gollum. Gollum's following them. They get a chance to kind of explore that a little bit. But then I think, and forgive me, I literally just watched the movie again a couple weeks ago, but I think Aragorn has a talk with Boromir. He might. I know they have a few talks during the movie, but might happen there. But either way, it's a time.
I think that's in the elf city. I don't think that's.
Yeah, they have a couple talks in Lothlorien, and I can't remember if they have one in Moria. But it's a rest. It's a short rest. It's a long rest. It's whatever you want to make it. The movie, because everything is just going so fast, the movie kind of misses the pace of it. But they're in there for days. It is a days-long journey through Moria. It's not like one 8-hour trek through the city. They are literally camping out in this now tomb. So make that, convey that. They don't see sunlight for days. They have no idea what time it is. It's kind of one of those things when you're just underground. How the fuck do you know when it's time to go to bed? Okay, you're tired, but you're walking around all day. You might have only been up for 7 hours.
And the classic, the DM had Gandalf roll a survival check when he was trying to figure out during that short rest where to go. And he probably got like a good roll because the DM's like, oh yeah, you're kind of like, you're at both the crossroads and you're not sure. You don't really have a memory of this place. But as you're using your wizardly magic and your senses, that cave smells much fouler. It feels fouler to go down that road.
Yeah, it doesn't smell so foul down here.
Exactly. So
exactly.
That's a skill check right there. And I know it doesn't really relate, but you can see where the inspiration. There's a reason why Tolkien is the father of all modern fantasy, especially Dungeons and Dragons. Like that's how it works. This is how fantasy adventurers progress through dungeons. They go through the sauce like they're swimming in a fucking pool. It's like, oh, the fucking feeling of the sauce. My character can thrive and shine here. They have points to their actions and their abilities. I'm a useful part of the team. And let's get to the next section. They get into the tomb.
Wait. I want to say one more thing. You know, Gandalf's a divination wizard, and fucking he rolls horrible on his survival check. And he's like, all right, guys, I have no idea where to go. We're taking a long rest. I need Porton to come back. They fucking take a long rest. And he's like, all right, I'm rolling for Porton. Oh, 20? Yeah, I'm using that on my survival check right now. Tell me where to go, DM. I need help.
Yes. He had to sit and meditate on it. Or maybe he asked his deity, Ero Iluvatar or whatever. Maybe he did some sort of with communication with them. And
commune. Yeah, divine intervention.
Or he used... like legend lore or something, or detect magic, and he's like, okay, that's evil over there. We shouldn't go there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they kind of go into the tomb. All right, there's again much more lore. This whole section of the movie and basically of the franchise is like it's basically like Gimli's section. You know, this is Gimli's lore, the lore of the dwarves, his character arc. This is the dungeon for his character, and it's kind of like. He gets to that section. He finds out his cousins are dead. This was their last stand. Blah blah blah. And they kind of realize, oh shit, we're under threat. Fucking this dumbass just dropped a book down the well, and now we're fucked. We got to hold up this room.
That's Pippin rolling a fucking -2 on his stealth check.
Exactly. Yeah, he rolls a -2.
It's one of those things, you know, they walk into the great city with all the pillars and stuff, and all your players are like, oh my God, this is so cool.
And the music! And you have the DM music playing. You have all that playing on your speaker while they're playing the game. Not necessarily that specific song, but like tailored for your dungeon. The sauce.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's in awe. But then, you know, oh, Gimli, your passive perception, you pick up. There's the throne room in there, or, you know, whatever. Something's over there. You know, you remember this from your childhood, or blah, blah, blah. And Gimli's like, oh, he's running in.
Yes, and Gimli, the player Gimli, sinks his teeth into that fucking brisket, the sauce. Lord, oh, this pisses me off. Oh, it's so good.
His Uncle Balin, he's in there. He's in the tomb, but everyone's got arrows in them still. And, you know, once again, feeding more lore, reading the book. We cannot get out. They are coming. And then that's when the DM asks everybody, just roll a stealth check right now.
Yes.
And Pippin rolls a -2.
Yeah. And that all of that lore that the DM is dropping is also from the ingredients that he put in there to make the vibe portray. They're reading this, and probably the DM's probably reading it out loud, or the DM handed a note to them and they read it in their character voice. But
it's building dread because it's foreshadowing.
It's building dread. It's building doom. It's emphasizing the flavor of the sauce. It's emphasizing what's to come. Something bad is about to happen, guys. We're reading all this terrible shit. We just walked into a tomb of all of your brothers and your dwarven kin, like even further deeper into the mines. And this was their last stand. And then somebody accidentally kicks a bunch of shit down the well with a -2 to their stealth. The DM describes all that. He probably turns off the music in that moment, and there's like tons of tension. Then it's just
you know, fucking everybody at the table is looking at the guy playing Pippin.
What the fuck, guys? I'm sorry. I wanted to wear heavy armor.
Exactly.
And then, you know, that's when the combat comes. They get fair warning. They hear it because it's like, okay, this is the last stand of those guys. This is going to be our last stand too. It builds on top of itself. The flavor, it's layers of flavor building up to a little mini culmination of this battle. There's a reason for this battle to take place. It's to have the players almost reenact the same last stand that the dwarven kin did. They bolster the doors. It gives them time to prep. Oh, everyone draw your swords. Frodo's sword starts glowing. It tells everyone the orcs are coming.
You have 3 actions. You have 3 actions before the enemies get here. What are you prepping for? You know, I'm going to pull out my weapon. I'm going to cast this spell.
Gimli gets some high ground. He gets prepared. They bolster the door. Fucking Boromir actually goes out and makes a perception check to kind of check out what's going on, and then an attack whiffs him, and he gets intel. There's a fucking cave troll coming. We need to prep. This is bad.
There was this is another tangent, but I was watching an interview with Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan. Sorry, I can't remember his.
Don't know
last
who that
name.
is.
The guy who plays the guys who play Pippin and Merry. Merry and
Oh,
Pippin.
yes.
But they're like, so from a ratings standpoint, from a movie rating standpoint, if your movie is rated PG-13, you get one use of the word fuck. The X-Men movies are always very good about using this in weird and funny moments, but they're like, yeah, we didn't use it in the trilogy. But he's like, what would be the best place to use the one F-bomb you're allotted for a PG-13 movie? And they're like, it's got to be they have a fucking cave troll.
Yeah, because this is probably a party of like level 2 characters or like 3 characters, and they're kind of like they're in a dangerous dungeon. You've been building the atmosphere the whole time. It's dangerous. It's scary. Everyone's fucking dead. And then the cave troll, let's be honest, it's probably not the same CR as like an ogre. It's probably like a hill giant level power. And they go out there and they're a party of like probably like level 2 or 3 characters, and that's like a level 2 character looking out, and he's like, there's a fucking hill giant coming. Like, guys, and there's 1,000 fucking goblins. And we're stuck in this room. And they're like, so when he comes around, and that's the player actually reacting, obviously actors, they have good emotion or whatever, as like a person would at like a table. But he's like, they have a fucking cave troll. Guys, we need to fucking get ready. They immediately start putting tons of broken weapons in the door. They're trying to fucking save themselves some time so they can all prep. Like they're all holding actions, getting ready for things to come in. If you don't have the sauce there, if you don't have the lore, if you don't have all the buildup, all the ingredients that you had from before, if you didn't layer those into this section of the game, they're just gonna be like, oh, we're in a fucking room. Oh yeah, there's some dead guys. Oh, there's an ogre coming. Like they're not gonna care. There's no sauce. There's no flavor because
there's
of this.
No lore.
The players can engage with it and sink their fucking teeth in, and they're going to be immersed, and they're going to be playing as if they're actually Aragorn in that fucking room.
It's immersion. It's about immersion. Immerse your players, you dummies.
Nobody wants to eat bland food. Obviously, sometimes you just want to do some snacking. You're just hanging out with some friends, The game's not super serious. It's like, it's more of just like we want to hang out. But
save that for your shopping session.
Exactly. Save that for your shopping session. Like, we're in the dungeon. We're deep in the dungeon. This is important. And the thing is, that's okay. Some people play the game differently. They play it more like just like a strategy war game. It's not as serious. Like, oh, I'm going to try and shoot that guy, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. And that's fine. But that's not us.
If you want to play good, if you want to play good D&D, then, you
don't do that. Yeah, you don't do that. If you want to play good D&D, you're showing up for fucking 4 or 5 hours. You don't want to be that's like going to a fucking, I'm expecting to go to this fancy restaurant where we're going to sink our teeth into the barbecue. It's going to be delicious. Oh my God.
The Caesar salad.
Yeah. And you get there and it's like, okay, guys, sorry, the furnace isn't working. We've got the Caesar salad. You're still with your boys, but we only got fucking plain salad. Here you go. You could probably still have some fun. You're just fucking around.
Yeah, it's like,
but it's
like
not.
This is the main course. This is what I was supposed to eat in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's not the same shit. It's not the same shit. So
yeah,
you want your sauce to be good. It's got a layer on the food. It's got to be great. Yeah. That's where it comes from. Like the players can sink. If the sauce is good, the players can sink their teeth into the food. They're going to be happy about it. They're going to be immersed. It's going to make them feel good about playing their characters, and it's going to make moments way better for them while they're playing.
Yeah. Let's keep going here. So they have their combat, initiative is rolled. Everyone's, it's a really cool, from a combat, I guess, like a build perspective, the room that they're in is super cool because it's got pillars. It's got a lot of scatter terrain. It's got walls and different levels of elevation. So everyone starts in the middle, but you can see as D&D combats go, they start getting separated. They start, Legolas is up here fucking 1v1ing the cave troll while Aragorn's trying to protect Frodo. The hobbits are just running around with like chickens with their head cut off because they don't fucking know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's like different sections of the combat where people are fighting, and then, Frodo gets cornered by the cave troll at one point, and then Aragorn has to run over there and try to like almost basically sacrifice himself to get in the way because he's the VIP.
Exactly. Aragorn's doing like damage control. He saves Boromir. He's like, all right, who else needs help? Aragorn is the support. He's the support fighter. He's going in and hopping in wherever he's needed.
He pulls out the pole arm because he's got the sentinel feet and he's trying to stop the cave troll from getting closer.
Exactly. Then Gimli and Boromir, they're taking care of the mobs. While Legolas 1v1s, Gandalf's off just I don't know. Gandalf's just doing stuff.
Gandalf was fighting. They're all fighting the mobs. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all fighting the mobs, but you have these kind of particular areas where there's more going on. Legolas is 1v1ing the cave troll. He can't do that the whole time. What Frodo then is 1v1ing the cave troll. He's gonna die immediately. It's this whole dynamic thing, which I mean is a whole other conversation of like making really immersive, fun, interactive combat maps. You can do that with terrain. You can do it online, but that's a cool fucking combat map. It gives a lot of freedom to the players to kind of explore and do cool shit. A lot of cool shit happens in that fight.
Yes, and you can relate it back to the DM. If the DM was making that fight, okay, there's only one entrance, and they're all gonna be trying to fight at that entrance. But there's a bunch of different layers to this room. There's pillars in the way. There's that giant tomb in the middle. It's kind of in the way, and so the guy's thought is, all right, Frodo is the one they're trying to protect, and technically the other hobbits. They're the least experienced. They're there to just mainly just carry shit for the journey and then help Frodo along because they're his support buddies.
Yeah, they're the fucking pack mules.
Yeah, they're basically...
Sam's got like 300 pounds of Tupperware on his backpack.
That's basically why they're there, just like emotional support for Frodo and, just to carry all the shit. But, that's important. They're important for the party. They serve a good purpose. But when that combat starts, the DM who's making the combat is like, okay, if I just throw this hill giant or this cave troll at them, like, they're probably going to take it out pretty quick. Like, it's not going to, they're just going to focus fire. Like, you can see once all the goblins are cleared out at the end, they fucking all attack the troll and just destroy him. And he's just, and Legolas just jumps on him and is just shooting him in the head because Legolas he's not bogged down by all the mobs. That's the point of the goblins. The goblins are, I'm surrounded by 10 goblins. I can't help with that cave troll right now. I've got to defend myself from these goblins or they're going to kill me. So it separates the party. There's thought. There's thought in the ingredients, the inspiration. I want them to be desperately running around and it's going to pin Frodo down and put him in a bad situation. That's pre-thought DM energy.
Yeah, and it goes into even more battle tactics of like Mitch said, there's only one entrance and exit. So there's a bottleneck. So if you just threw like that entire horde that attacked them, if they were just in a giant open field, they would have immediately died. There's no way that they would have been able to hold off all of those assailants coming at them all at once. But there's a bottleneck. You can even see it in the movie. The orcs, or the goblins, they run in and immediately they're just getting shot in the head and stuff. The archers are picking them off, but then there gets too many. So they all pull out their swords and then the chaos erupts. But Cave Troll's not there yet. Cave Troll's coming in at initiative count 20 of round 3.
Yes, because so they're all bogged down already.
Everyone is spread out already. Everyone has started. They're not just sitting there waiting for the Cave Troll to come anymore. They've all gotten into their own shit and spread out. So the Cave Troll runs in, and now he can go after Frodo, or he can go after the closest one, and the entire party's not there waiting for it. It's all combat tactics. It's all D&D, baby.
Yes, this is a DM putting thought into the scene before it happens. And I already know somebody's going to say, well, you can't compare D&D to a movie because it's like a railroad. Fucking dumbass. Okay, listen here. This is a dungeon. They have to get to the other side of the mine. They have to. You can say, well, why didn't they just skip that room and then they wouldn't be trapped? Because all of Gimli's lore was in that fucking room. His dead fucking relatives are in there. You don't think he's going to want to go in there? Tantalize your players to go where you want them to go. Like we explained last time. Lure them in. They want to go there. Maybe they'll find, Balin's old axe, and it's a magic item for D&D terms. Who cares? Like they're finding lore about their characters. What happened to my brothers? I want to read this.
They also didn't know that they were going to get attacked in there too. This is also kind of another thing. Don't pull out, and this is a message to DMs, whether it's online or in person. Don't pull out your battle map before battle is started, because that is going to put your players in battle mode.
Yes.
If you pull out a battle map and you're like, oh yeah, you walk into this room, let me get a map. They're immediately going, okay, combat's coming. And their entire way of thinking is going to change. The party didn't know that they were going to get ambushed by goblins. Pippin rolled a -2 on stealth, and that is what triggered it. You know, it wasn't like, oh man, we can't go in here. There's only one route out. No, dude, they've been in here for days, and they've been quiet, and they haven't attracted anything. There is no reason for them to think that if they go into this room that they're immediately going to alert all the goblins. It's not a railroad. And also, if you're a DM, a railroad isn't a bad thing. You just need, we had a whole conversation about this last time.
Go watch our last episode.
Go watch our last episode. A railroad isn't a bad thing. You just don't want to take away the player agency.
Yeah, the players didn't have to go in there. You put his lore in there, you know, and an engaged player who wants to learn about his past and learn about his lore and figure out what's going on with the plot, they're going to want to go do that thing. You're not forcing them to do it. Gimli could have just gone in the room by himself and they could have waited outside. You know, it's up to the players on what they want to do. They just thought like, oh, this is a room. It's kind of secure. Let's go hide in here for a bit while you check out your lore. You know, maybe we'll take a short rest. That's what they were thinking. So it's not a railroad. It's how it is. Even with the Watcher, the whole thing isn't a railroad. The original plan was to go over the mountain, and the players redirected it into the mines. So then the DM was thinking, okay, for next session, I'm gonna have to prep this and this. What's in that mine? Okay, they're getting the ingredients. Well, fuck the ingredients section. We're done with that. We're in the middle section. We're in the meat of the sauce. Making it.
The DM planned a whole crawl for the mountain. He's like, all right, we have a mountain adventure coming up. They're going to get hit by an avalanche, and then I have this thing after. They go through the first challenge. Oh, shit, that avalanche almost killed us. Yeah, we're not doing this. We're going back. Then they double down for the mountains, and you're just like, fuck. All right, I got to make a dungeon crawl in the mountains. But yeah, it's not a railroad. They still have their agency, and the things, their actions are what is you know, triggering all this. And Pippin and Mary, they're throwing rocks into the water. Roger, the water comes out. That's why it happened.
Yes, and
it didn't just come out and attack them for no reason.
Hypothetically, like we were talking about earlier, they had two paths to go. They rolled good on their checks. The DM told Gandalf, that path probably seems pretty bad. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go to the good path. They could have gone either way. If they went down the bad path, maybe they would have ran into the Balrog sooner and died. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So fuck you, hypothetical guy that's arguing with us. You don't know anything.
Fuck you.
But anyways, so they're done with the combat, and they're like, oh, man, that was hard. Man, we really almost died there. And then you're like, hey, congratulations.
Wounds. Yeah, they lick their wounds. They're like, Frodo, are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. Luckily, Frodo had the god tier magic item from his backstory that was given to him of the mithril armor. And, you know, and it links to the whole thing. They're in the mithril mine. Gimli's like, you have a mithril chain vest? My ancestors made those. Like, that's linking his backstory to another character. That's DM thought.
Exactly. So, yeah, they take literally like 30 seconds of rest. And that's when the DM's like, guys, you hear more noises coming out. You know, the rest of the goblins are coming. You know, he's not thrusting another encounter on them. He's like, you got to go now. If you linger any longer,
there's going to be another fight.
You're going to be fighting this 10 times over. So they're like, all right, let's go. They're just running through, you know, the pillar giant city. And, you know, this is the chase sequence, right? They're running. They're making constitution checks to try and keep pace. The goblins, they're pouring out of the walls. They're, you know, sprinting after them. You can hear the screams and chatters of the goblins.
Yes.
You understand if you were to stop now, you would be overwhelmed and destroyed. There is no coming out of this. You need to flee. So then you have this whole skill check area, and the party's failing. And, you know, you wouldn't just be like, sorry, you failed, and the goblins kill you. So the DM does something smart. The goblins have you surrounded. You know, you give them a chance to role play. What do they do? You know, what are you doing in the face of death? There's no way you're coming out of this. But then the DM's like, nah, here's your get out of jail free card. Bam. You start hearing something in the distance, something worse, something that even chills the goblins to their spine. The goblins stop. They're not looking at you anymore. They're scared. They start fleeing. The party's like, yeah, woohoo. Thank goodness.
And they do that in the moment. Gimli's like, they're scared of us. Ha ha.
Yeah. And then that's when the fucking Balor comes out.
That's when the Balor, they see it in the distance. They just see they don't even necessarily see it. They see the heat and the light coming from that area. And nobody knows what it is except for the player whose backstory makes him wiser than the rest. And he says, and you see him deep in thought for a second. He's like, oh, I know what this is. He rolled his history check there to see if he knew from his travels of hundreds of years of travels. And he says,
yeah.
And even he knows, he's like, this foe is beyond any of us. Like, we have to run. rah, and he freaks out. That's the player in the moment, like, who has a little bit of outside game knowledge of what a Balor is, and he's like, we're level fucking 3, we gotta run.
Yeah, and obviously we know it's a Balrog, but the Balor is the D&D version of a Balrog. It's literally
it's the same
verbatim the same fucking thing. They just had, Tolkien has rights to his name,
copyright,
so yeah. But the Balrog comes out in the party. That's an example. We talked about this very briefly at the last part of our on the last part of our last episode. But like, that's a situation where there's a monster that you do not fight, you run from. And Gandalf, he's the veteran player. He's like, guys, we got to go.
And again, like you were just saying, they're trying to make checks to get out of there. They're making Constitution saves. They're making dex saves. They have a whole skill jump puzzle where they're jumping on the bridge and they're catching each other. One player's about to fall into the lava or into the abyss, and one of the other players makes an acrobatics check to grab him and save him, or a strength check. These are all challenges while they're fleeing this monster. And they probably are rolling pretty bad. So that's why they're like, oh shit, it's catching up to us.
Yeah, and all the while, initiative is rolled because there's goblins shooting at you. So Legolas, the ranger archer, I don't know exactly what class Legolas would be. He's probably a rogue.
He'd probably be a rogue. Yeah, probably a rogue.
Maybe
rogue
fighter.
Or fighter. Rogue fighter.
Yeah, he's not a ranger.
He's some powerful multi-class. Aragorn's a ranger.
Aragorn's a ranger for sure. But yeah, Legolas now, initiative is rolled. Maybe they're doing round by round. All right, what are you all doing as this round comes to pass? And Legolas is like, all right, I'm using my 2 attacks on these goblins up there. He's taken off the assailants so everyone else can focus on the skill checks. And it's like this whole thing. It's this really intricate, involved encounter. Not every encounter has to be just you bashing other enemies. It can be involving skill checks. It can be having to get to one place from another. And then also, there might be a little bit of combat. There might be a little bit of rolling attacks and getting hit. But it's this whole thing where there's so much going on, and it's up to the party to work together.
The DM wants this part of the sauce to be the flavor of franticism. They are running for their lives. They're scared. They're trying to make skill challenges while defeating assailants because they know something's behind them. The DM had thought about this before. Like, I want them to be scared of this thing. They're going to be fleeing, but I'm going to make it hard for them. And the players in the moment are going to feel that. They're going to be like, oh shit, oh, this is rough. You're not just like straight up killing. Oh, there's a fucking lake of lava in your way. They have, like, they can get out. They're trying to traverse. Some of the players are like, if we move the thing, maybe it'll move back and forth. That's some player at the table asking the DM, like, I know this thing's rocking. Can we use our body weight to rock it back and forth and give us a better jump? Sure, yeah, give me a performance check. And then they have advantage on their save or something. This is like sauce that has preemptively been made by the DM. The flavors are getting pushed into their mouth by this. It's heavy-handed to make them feel a certain way, and it's pre-made, it's pre-thought of. The DM wants it to happen.
Yeah, this is the skill check part of the dungeon crawl. It's not just combat after combat after combat after combat. There's a lot of different encounters planned through this dungeon crawl. They're in a dungeon crawl. It's one thing after the other. And there might be some rests here and there, but this final bit, combat, almost another combat, then a skill check encounter, then another combat, the worst combat. So it's like it is this whole thing where they have to manage their resources, and then they make it past that skill challenge. They go to the bridge of Khazad-dûm, and that's when they realize, this thing's catching up to us. The player playing Gandalf is like, all right, I don't think we're gonna make it out. Or you can even do something like under the table, or you can text the player or something like, hey, you can just say, hey, Gandalf, roll a wisdom check. Gandalf rolls it. Roll an insight check, and you can text him or something. And you'd be like, look, unless you understand at the pace that you're on right now, this thing's going to catch up to you, and you are going to be locked in combat with it. So then the player that plays Gandalf is like, fuck, we can't get out in time.
So they make the decision. They make the decision to be like, you guys run, I'm going to distract it, basically. Because it's going to catch up to us. We failed too many checks on that bridge.
Exactly. So now you have this extremely dramatic moment where level 3 Gandalf, he stands up to the fucking CR-18 Balor, and he's just like, guys, run. Just run. Mm-hmm. And fucking, he's sitting there on the bridge. The Balor goes first. They roll initiative. The rest of the party is watching, and they roll initiative. The Balor You see this giant flame sword come down on you. I cast shield. Poof,
Yes,
that works. You know, the
he
player's
casts,
like,
yes, he casts shield. He's got mage armor on, so his AC is like a 15, and he casts
Yeah.
shield, and somehow the Balor rolls like a 17 and doesn't break a shield, and all the players are like, oh, and it gives him another turn to run, and you know, even Gandalf's like, oh, and then that's when Gandalf, I wonder what spell he cast on the bridge to make it explode.
Would it be like mold? No, it wouldn't be mold earth. It could be mold earth.
Perhaps, yeah, it's a
Or
thin bridge. It's a giant
like meld.
monster. He's
Yeah.
probably like, I'm gonna do there's the earth tremor spell, you know,
Earth tremor.
and
You
he's
could
like,
do shatter.
he probably asks the DM like, hey, like if I earth tremor this like stone bridge, and like will it break if it's like all structurally damaged? Probably had Gandalf roll like a check or something. Rolled super well. It's like, yeah, seems like the bridge is probably going to break by the weight of this creature. And that's like a smart player thinking like, how do I get out of this? I can't fight this thing. I gotta do something else. Obviously in the second movie, you then see the player fucking diving down in the abyss with them, stabbing him in the heart. But you know what? We'll ignore that part.
So then, of course, Gandalf falls with the Balrog. And that's a huge sacrifice. The rest of the party, you know, we said this last time. You know, Frodo, the rookie player, this is only his third session playing D&D. He's like, no, we have to save him. All the experienced players are like, yeah, no, he's dead. We're going. He'll roll up a new character next time. So, yeah. And then they leave. But that's a super climactic encounter. You know, after they had that entire arc, that entire session of just insanely good combat, good role play. You know, when you have a good D&D session, you get like this high, like this adrenaline where it ends, but you're like so still pumped up. You're like, fuck, like I'm tired. And it's 11:30 at night. I want to go to bed, but like I got this feeling inside, you know? It's like I'm pumped.
Yeah.
I want more.
Yeah. It's the sauce. It makes it great. And
that's the sauce.
And the DM, you know, he had a Balrog. He wanted to put it somewhere. He decided when he was crafting the adventure, like, oh, I'm going to make it a chase sequence because they can't necessarily fight this thing. I want it to be dread. I built up all that stuff, all of the tension, okay, they were successful against the cave troll and they had a celebration because they survived. And that was a hard combat in the first place. And a Balrog is 20 times more strong than the cave troll. And that thing's walking at him. And the DM's intent behind it is there. They want their players to have a good session. They want their players to feel. They want all their skills to be useful. This is all pre-thought stuff, or even in the moment stuff of the DM. Like, well, I know some of these players are very dexterous, and I know Legolas is like crazy good with a bow. When I'm making this encounter, like, yeah, I'm gonna have some goblins up there so he can do something interesting. He can take them out while the players are trying to succeed the challenge because he's going to succeed it right away, you know? Yeah. So this is pre-thought stuff that the Dungeon Master is catering to his players. It's layers to the sauce. He knows who he's making the food for. You're not going to have a vegan showing up to the barbecue place expecting to have a good time. The DM is catering to the barbecue fiends.
Yeah, exactly. And you have that insane session because it made you feel something. It had all of the shit that people want when they're playing D&D.
It's like that heavy fucking sauce.
Yeah, you might be content with just getting together and rolling some dice and like being super casual about it. But I guarantee you, if you put a Minds of Moria level of hype type session in front of the casual player, they're going to want that every time now. They're going to want that over the casual, let's just drink beer and roll some dice and fight some guy, and fight a troll. No, dude, I want to go on a sick ass fucking dungeon crawl that is lore heavy and super rich and makes me fall into this world and not want to come out. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, I'm not a super serious player. I'm more casual. Cool. I also believe that you're not a super serious player because you haven't had a super serious session that made you fucking lose your goddamn mind.
Yeah, you haven't gotten involved in the game enough. You haven't really delved in. That's like the person who's afraid to eat anything besides chicken tenders and hot dogs. That's what that person is. Like, oh, yeah. I feel like a nerd. I'll feel like a dork if I get too immersed, or I'm just too nervous to role play. It's like, fuck that. Just eat it. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with chicken tendies and mac and cheese.
Oh, yeah, we love every once in a while. I swear, like with the boys, you just like, you don't really want to put too much effort in the session. You're tired, and it's not necessarily your main campaign. It's like, guys, let's do a little fucking battle arena with our players. Let's just fight Let's just fight each other and have fun and have some beers. That's great sometimes. But if you're just eating garbage food all the time, you're gonna have no inspiration. It's just gonna it's bland. Like once in a
Yeah.
while, it's like, oh, I'm gonna pig out on this bag of chicken tenders and this fries. They're delicious, and then you eat that again, then you eat that again, then you eat a hot dog, and then you eat that again, and you're like, okay, where's the real fucking food?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, I got this steak over here, but you're gonna have to show up and play. You're like, okay, yeah, you know what? I've eaten too many chicken tenders and mac and cheese. I'll do some work for that steak.
Yeah,
And that's what you got to do. It takes work. It takes work to make a good D&D session, not only from the dungeon master, but from the players as well. You got to show up and understand what your character's motivations are and understand how you want to play them and think of cool shit that you can say or that you can do on your off time. You should be thinking about your character or your game session if you're a DM before it, after and before and all the time. I'm always brainstorming. How can I, all right, how even like literally even when I'm like at the grocery store or if I'm on the phone with someone, there are times where I'm dealing with people in life and I'm like, oh my God, you actually are a really good inspiration for an NPC. It's always trying to figure out ways that you can take inspiration and just always be planning for your session. Now, of course, is that a little bit tunnel vision? Yes, D&D is my favorite hobby. It is my favorite thing to do. Not everyone is going to be into it as much as I am.
if your D&D is your hobby, you want to be the best at it. You want to be the Iron Chef of D&D. You're cooking up that fucking sauce.
Be the Gordon Ramsay of D&D.
Exactly.
So it takes work. It's going to take time. The more time you put into it doesn't always necessarily, I'm contradicting myself here, but the more time you put into it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's going to be better. You need to be inspired. You need to work smart. Work smarter, not harder. Cool. I can sit here for 16 hours building a really cool map, but if I have no inspiration of like the enemies and the reasoning the encounter exists in the first place, it's like, cool, the map's awesome, but it's like, awesome. The plate that you just served this on is the coolest plate I've ever seen, but the steak sucks. It's going to be work, but it's going to make it so much more worth it when you're sitting there at the table and your players a year from now are still talking about that one session, you know?
Yeah, that's what you want. You want your players the sessions to be memorable. And obviously not every session is going to be like that. You have lulls in the campaign, they're not doing as much. It's like traveling and all this other stuff, much more role play and exposition, but like those climatic mini arcs and campaigns and like the dungeon crawls and like the very important sessions where it's like a finale of a certain arc, those are the ones people are going to remember. And that's when the sauce needs to be there. Otherwise, no one's going to care. All of your work is going to fall flat because you didn't necessarily have the inspiration to make it right and do it the correct way and, make it something that you would be proud of.
Exactly. Put some sauce into your freaking D&D sessions. Don't be casual.
Yeah.
Casual's cool. Casual's fun. There's nothing wrong with it. But I promise you, if you start really trying and really showing up, your players are going to mimic you as a DM. And if you show up as a player, your fellow other players will start mimicking you. When they get it, when you show up when you show up, everyone else is eating chicken tendies and you got the prime rib. Everyone's like, "Hey, what are you eating there?"
Yeah, where'd you get that?
It's my prime rib. Yeah, where'd you get that? Oh, it's my prime rib. It took a long time to make, but it's really good. They're like, "Hey, can I taste that?
Well,
Can I have a
yeah.
little bite?"
And that's
Yeah, of course.
That's the character at the table who's played a lot, who's really involved in the sessions and made a whole backstory, and that they worked with the DM. Oh yeah, DM, can I use your grill and your pan? DM, I see you have a whole pan of sauce there. Can I put some of that on my steak that I just made? Like my delicious steak that I made and prep for you to put your sauce on? Sure, yeah, you can do that. And the other player like shows up with like, oh yeah, I got some fucking McDonald's. And they're eating it at the table and they see this dude eating. It's like a fancy meal. He's got mashed potatoes on the plate, a steak. He's got freshly cooked broccolini. It's all garliced out or whatever. And all this gravy, all this sauce is on top. And the player's eating like their like cheeseburger, and they're like,
yeah, they're flimsy little quarter pounder.
And they're gonna be like, well, hey, how come I didn't get that food? Well, did you bring the character to be a good receptor of the sauce? No. So it comes to the players as well. And that's what we're kind of getting at. If you're a DM, you got to have the sauce. You got to have the inspiration, and the players will have to join in with you. They have to bring their open mind and their fleshed out, passionately made characters to engage in that sauce of deliciousness. That's a new magic item, sauce of deliciousness.
sauce of deliciousness. It's only awarded to the best players and the best DMs.
And don't get us wrong, like you can play simple D&D. Like it's not that big deal. You can just have fun with the boys and drink some beers and not really care like, oh, you fucking died or blah blah blah. I'm sure that session will be fun, but it's not going to be memorable. It's not going to be as great in the future, and you're not going to necessarily care. And it's more about just hanging out rather than just playing the game. If you're a D&D player, you want the sauce session.
Yeah. If you're really into the hobby and you're really into it, of course, when we're playing D&D, I want my friends there. I'm not like, when I'm thinking about my campaigns, I'm not just like, well, I only need the best players. It's like, no, I want to play with my friends, right? I'm not going to conventions and being like, you're a good player. I don't know you, but now you're going to be in my campaign because my session has the sauce. But it's like, it's a social thing. You want to be there with your friends who you genuinely like and enjoy spending time with. But if you're not trying, then why are you playing? Just go sit out back and by a fire and smoke some stogs and, have some barbecue. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
but
play a video game with the boys. Play a video game with the boys. It's different. Like, do something where you can just be social. If that's the reason why you want to do it, yeah.
But if you're trying to play D&D, then fucking show up to play.
Yeah, show up to play.
Show up to play. That's the moral of the story. And of course, this is just our opinions. This is the way that we play D&D. We like to show up and we like to play and we like to be immersed. It is a social thing, but it's also, this is more than just like getting together. This is like, guys, we're working towards something awesome. So let's all show up. Let's be good players. Let's do our homework and let's prepare because we're getting together and we are committed to this. We are committed to making a cool fucking story that we all really like and that we'll remember till the day we die. That's my 2 cents.
All right. Well, we're at an hour and 7.
Right on time. Perfect. Well, I guess we'll leave you there. We skipped the wisdom check again. I'm sorry. We were on too much of a. It wasn't even a tangent. We just got into it.
Lost in the sauce.
We were
lost in the sauce. Sorry, guys.
That's definitely the name for this episode.
Lost
for sure.
in the sauce.
Lost in the sauce. Well, thanks for listening in. It's one of those things. The wisdom check is cool, and we do like this segment. But if we're like, we're lost in the sauce, we're probably gonna skip it. But keep submitting your questions. I do read them. We both do. So if there's any really good questions, obviously we'll definitely take them if we're not too busy yapping our own shit. But yeah, I hope this helped. This actually might be a cool little thing to do every once in a while, Mitch, where we take like an arc from a movie or something and we convert it to D&D. Like, all right, this happened here. This happened there.
The art of the sauce. The analysis.
We look at sauce from other movies and we're like, all right, how do we make this D&D? How do we get this into a D&D session? How do we incorporate the sauce?
Yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was honestly a little bit of a longer one. It was good. It was well structured. We love us some Lord of the Rings, and we hope you guys learned some shit. The sauce is so important. Like as a player, when you show up as a player with a fleshed out backstory, and you get a nice meaty saucy steak to bite into, you're gonna want to stay in that game. You want to, you're like, oh, can I join your game? Like you're gonna want to. And when you describe that game to your friends, they're going to be fucking jealous. So incorporate some sauce into your games. We'll leave you here. If you like the artwork, Mitch, this is all Mitch. Oh, sorry, he's on this side of me. It's all Mitch. He's a really good pixel artist. He made the logo for our podcast. He made the frames for this whole thing. His going rate is $1 billion per commission. So he's not really anywhere on the internet. You can always GM me and I will harass him for you. But yeah, comment. Leave a like, share the podcast. We've been having a lot of fun, especially with the most previous, few episodes. We definitely want to keep this going. And the more that you share it with your friends, the more that you like, all that stupid shit, it helps us. It gives us, and not only will it help us share the podcast, but it lets us know that we're doing something fun. This is fun for us, but obviously if it's fun for you guys, that makes it a little more fulfilling too. Yeah. And it's the same thing. The passion. We're passionately, we want to talk about D&D, and we talk about it all the time. We're like, let's just talk about it on the podcast. And our passion comes out, and I hope you can see our passion from us explaining the fucking sauce. Peace out. We out. Let's go. Woo!